The wildfires roared like living entities, consuming everything in their path. Los Angeles, once a city of glittering lights, had become an inferno of chaos and despair. We had been warned for weeks about the encroaching flames, but warnings had a way of blending into the background noise of life. It wasn't until the ash began to fall like snow and the air turned thick with acrid smoke that the reality truly set in. I lived in the foothills of Glendale, in a modest 2-bedroom house with my sister, Emma. Our parents had died years ago, and we had leaned on each other ever since. The fires seemed like just another obstacle we'd face together. But this time, I wasn't so sure we'd make it. The evacuation orders came at midnight. I woke to the sound of sirens blaring through the streets and the eerie orange glow seeping through the cracks of the blinds. The fire was close. Closer than the news had let on. Emma and I threw what we could into duffel bags. Clothes, photos, my late father's watch, Emma's sketchbook. We left the rest behind. As we drove down the winding streets, the landscape seemed alien. Shadows danced wildly against the fiery backdrop, and the smoke blurred the edges of reality. People ran alongside their cars, clutching pets and children. It was a mass exodus, chaotic and primal. Emma stared out the window in silence, her hand clutching mine. "I don't think we're going to make it," she whispered. "Don't say that," I replied, more for myself than her. The radio crackled with emergency updates, but the signal kept cutting out. Cell service was gone. It was as if the city had been severed from the rest of the world. As we reached the highway, we saw the full scope of the destruction. Entire neighborhoods were ablaze, and the air was filled with the distant screams of people and animals alike. Traffic was at a standstill, and the flames were closing in. That's when I noticed the figure. At first, I thought it was a hallucination. The heat and stress were playing tricks on my mind. I was sure of it. But as we inched forward in the jam, the figure became clearer. A man, or something resembling a man, stood on the edge of the road. His silhouette was impossibly tall, his frame impossibly thin. His face was obscured by shadow, but his eyes, they glowed with a faint blue light that cut through the smoke like a beacon. "Do you see that?" I asked Emma, pointing. She nodded slowly, her face pale. "What is he doing?" Quote, "The figure stood motionless, watching the chaos unfold. Then, as if sensing our gaze, he turned toward us." A shiver ran down my spine. Colder than the fire was hot. He raised one long, bony arm and gestured for us to follow him. "Don't," Emma said, gripping my arm tightly. "Just don't." But something about the figure was magnetic. Without thinking, I pulled the car out of the line and followed him down a side road. Behind us, horns blared and voices shouted. But I didn't stop. Emma protested, begging me to turn back. But I couldn't. It was as if I were under a spell. The figure led us through a labyrinth of back streets and alleys, each turn taking us farther from the main roads and deeper into the burning city. The smoke thickened, and the heat became unbearable. Yet the figure moved with purpose, always just far enough ahead that I couldn't see his features clearly. Finally, he stopped in front of an old tunnel, one I didn't even know existed. It looked ancient, its stone entrance weathered and overgrown with ivy. The figure pointed toward the darkness within. "You want us to go in there?" I asked aloud, my voice cracking. The figure didn't respond. He simply stood there, his glowing eyes unblinking. Behind us, the fire roared louder, its light reflecting off the car's rearview mirror. Emma sobbed quietly beside me, but I knew there was no other choice. We entered the tunnel. The air inside was cool, a stark contrast to the inferno outside. The walls were lined with strange markings, symbols I didn't recognize but felt oddly familiar. The tunnel stretched on for what felt like miles, the sound of our footsteps echoing endlessly. Then we saw the light. It was faint at first, a soft blue glow that seemed to pulsate like a heartbeat. As we approached, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. At the center stood a massive machine, its design unlike anything I'd ever seen. It hummed with energy, and the air around it shimmered. The figure was there, standing beside it. "Who are you?" I demanded. "What is this place?" Quote, for the first time, the figure spoke. His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder, a refuge. Before I could ask more, the machine roared to life. A portal opened in its center, a swirling vortex of light and color. The figure gestured toward it. "No," Emma said, backing away. "This is insane." But the heat was closing in, the fire consuming everything behind us. I looked at Emma, then at the figure. I didn't trust him, but I trusted the fire even less. "Come on," I said, grabbing Emma's hand. Together, we stepped into the portal. The sensation was indescribable. It was like being stretched and compressed all at once, every atom of my body vibrating with energy. When we emerged, the world was different. The air was clean. The sky was a deep shade of violet, and the ground beneath us shimmered like glass. The figure was gone, and so was the fire. In the distance, a city of towering spires glowed with the same blue light as the machine. "What is this place?" Emma whispered. "I don't know," I replied, my voice shaking. "But I think we're safe." We never found out who the figure was or why he saved us. All we knew was that Los Angeles was gone, consumed by the flames. And we were somewhere else, somewhere far beyond the world we once knew.